I mean, the guy is an award-winning broadcaster and personality. That we know. Handsome. Maybe the most handsome man I've ever met in person. Knowledgeable. Personable. But now I'm not the only person that thinks that way. The world now knows. And let's bring him in. And that is Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Chris Van Vliet. Chris, good morning.
Those were things you were saying about me?
Hell
My
yeah.
goodness, Dave. Thank you.
And this is coming from somebody who owns one himself. You got one amazing head of hair.
Yeah, but Dave, you have the best hair in all of radio. There's no question about that.
How are you, Chris?
Doing great. So good to be on with you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
I had to have you on, Chris, because and you and I have known each other for a while. And Chris, you've been a guest here on Busted Open. I've been a guest on your show as well. But I really do mean it. The last 2 years, you have blown up. And I know, and I hope I'm not, giving anything away here, but I know you kind of questioned about your future talking about professional wrestling at one point, and you stuck with it, you stayed with it, and now you're at the top of the game. Like, just talk about what this journey has been like for you.
Well, look, Dave, there's obviously everybody knows I love wrestling. I'm a lifelong fan. It's always been something that's just kind of been there, right? So you mentioned it in the intro, broadcasting is my first passion. Like, that was the thing from when I was 4 years old. I wanted to work in radio or TV, or maybe hopefully one day both. And I've been so lucky and so fortunate to do that. I fell in love. I have it right over here, actually. I had a Fisher Price tape recorder when I was 4, and I would pretend to be the radio DJs that I heard on the radio. But I always loved wrestling. And I was so fortunate that, like, when you're working under the umbrella of entertainment, you're talking to comedians and actors and directors, and every once in a while, WWE or TNA or Ring of Honor would come to town, and I'd get to interview a wrestler. So that's kind of where it began. And I guess just over the years, I was like, well, what if I did an interview instead of just them coming to town? What if I did an interview when they were at the local indie show that was 20 minutes away? Or what if I drove to a convention an hour or 2 or 4 away? And that's kind of where my YouTube channel started to grow. But I guess for me, 6 years ago, I saw the trajectory of the YouTube channel starting to tick up. And if you remember, 6 years ago, 2019, Dave, that was an exciting time in wrestling.
Yes.
For the first time, we had competition in almost 20 years.
Yep.
And I think that AEW coming in and bringing some competition, and then a lot of eyeballs on the new talent there and what WWE was doing, there was a lot of people watching my YouTube channel. So I just kind of went all in at that point in time. I quit my day job in television at that time and said, I'm going to go all in on TV and we'll see what happens here. And I had no idea what would happen, but here we are. And it's nice to know there's some other wrestling fans out there too.
Well, and here's the thing, Chris, and I was actually having this discussion not that long ago with my producer, Paul. Like, what you've done and what you've accomplished is you've kind of started a trend. And that trend is you've interviewed and you do your show and your channel in a certain way. Like, I feel like there's been a belief in pro wrestling that you have to go for clicks and you have to go for clickbait and you have to go for the low hanging fruit and you have to go after the negative. That's not what you've done at all, Chris. It's completely the opposite. You've done long form. You've done positivity. You've done just great conversations and not just like the clickbait, low hanging fruit. And it really has started a trend where we're kind of getting away from that when it comes to the quote unquote wrestling journalists and being more like mainstream and positive. Was that something that you were trying to do, or did that just happen naturally?
The thing I love about long form conversations is it allows you in that moment to share a long conversation that's not just sound bites, right? It allows you to actually dive into the topics. And the cool thing about podcasting as a medium is it allows people to like kind of eavesdrop in on the conversations that we're having. So if it's me and you, Dave, having a conversation for an hour, hour and a half, sometimes even 2 hours, things come up, right? And you're able to dive deeper into topics instead of like knowing there's not a lot of time, so you're forced to move on to the next subject. I've just always been fascinated by people who are like at the top of their game, whether that's pro wrestling or that's acting or that's comedy or music or whatever happens to be. And just like honestly, selfishly, I just want to reverse engineer their success back so that I can maybe pull a few things from that and apply it to my own life. So that's kind of how I've always approached these conversations. But going back to like early interviews that I would do, early wrestling interviews, like I remember having Jeff Hardy on in like 2011, and he walked into the TV station that I was working at in Cleveland, Ohio, WOIO, Channel 19. And I think he was expecting like a morning news interview. And then I started hitting him with stuff from like, oh, this thing that happened in 2002 or this thing that happened in like 2007 or whatever. And he's like, wait a second. And like, he's like, you're speaking my language. Like, this is crazy. And I always just kind of had in the back of my mind, like, if I ever talk to so-and-so, I'm going to ask about this thing or that thing. Cause I think that, and this is why you're so great at what you do, Dave. It's curiosity, right? If it begins with curiosity and it begins with like genuinely wanting to know the answer to a question, whatever that question may be, then I think that the guard starts to come down a little bit from the people that you're talking to. And they really start to open up and you really start to see who they actually are, not just like curtain to curtain. You actually see who the person is behind that.
Yeah, one thing I've always kind of preached, and even with the people that I work with here on Busted Open and SiriusXM, is to avoid the gotcha question. Everybody's looking for the gotcha question and the gotcha answer. It's really not about that at all. It's about creating a bond and a bond of trust and getting that person to trust you and want to tell you those things without even you having to go after them. Because then as soon as you do that, the defenses go up.
Well, the thing is, I think that if you like truly go after someone in like a gotcha fashion, that's the last time you ever talk to that
Yep.
person. And maybe you get the answer that you're looking for. But like you said, if you can bring their guard down and then it naturally comes up in a conversation, then I think that that's where the audience starts to realize, oh my gosh, this is a real conversation. It's not just someone who's like trying to make this other person look bad. And uh, my hope with every interview that I do, no matter who they are, no matter what their vocation is my hope is that when that interview is done, they go, I'd like to do that again sometime.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I love about what you've been able to do, Chris, is that when somebody has something that they want to promote or somebody is moving on to another company, one of the first names they think of is Chris Van Vliet. I want to go on with Chris. I want to get that word out through Chris because you have built such a large platform and it's such a great reputation that it went from you seeking people out to people now seeking you out.
And it's wild. Like, thank you for saying that. It's a crazy thing to think about. Now, with that said, Dave, it's not all easy, right? Like, I'm still chasing down a lot of people.
I
I'm
get
still
it, of
trying to,
course. Yeah.
right? And it's 2 episodes a week, every Tuesday and every Thursday, I put out a new interview. So, like, do the math. That's over 100 a year. And, same thing with what you guys are doing. I'm busted open. And, my hat's off to you guys for all the hard work you put in. But I'm still chasing them down a lot. But it's nice that on occasion I'll get a DM or a text of someone being like, hey, I'm going to be in town. Could we do this interview? And I'm just like, yes, absolutely. I'd love to. But the cool thing about like being able to really dive into a conversation and like peel back the layers of the onion is it's been a lot of emotional moments on my show over the last year or two. And like, think people sharing things or like getting physically emotional, like sharing things they've never shared before. And I'm just grateful that people can feel like they're able to open up like that, knowing that there's cameras there and knowing that there's going to be people watching as well.
And I think that's the beauty of what you do and what, we all try to do is once the conversation starts, they forget about the microphone and they forget about the camera because they're talking to Chris. And they get emotional, they start diving into the story and then it just becomes a conversation. And that's the beauty of what you do. And there's very few people that are able to do that where it's not an interview, it's a conversation.
Thanks, Dave. And I've always just kind of thought about it like this. Interview is kind of a strange word, right? Because in your everyday life, you're not ever really interviewing unless it's like a job interview or like, I don't know, the police,
Yeah.
bringing you in for an interview. But like we have conversations every day. Every single day, we have these conversations and we share with each other. And I think that a lot of people think about interviews like with a capital I, like it's a big, scary thing. But if you're just going to share an hour with someone, if you and I were to go out for a beer or some New York pizza next time I'm there, pizza's on me, Dave.
Well,
But if he,
I prefer Jersey pizza. So like
fair enough.
the
And my
Jersey.
wife is from New Jersey, and she will kill me if she heard me say that. But next time I'm there, we'll share some pizza. But
Please.
if we were to just sit down and just chat, that's completely different from like, I've got a list of these questions here, and I'm going to read them off, and question number one is going to lead to question number two, and that's just not really, a normal cadence of how people speak.
True. And like I said, you bring positivity to it as well. And you talked about the last year and some of the emotional moments these last year. Like in this last year, and there's an interview that just, or I should say, conversation that has just been posted with Peter Rosenberg. You just had Nic Nemeth on, who's one of our co-hosts here on Busted Open. But you talk about emotion. What's one conversation that stands out for you this past year?
There's a few. There's one I just did with Mickey James that'll be coming out soon, and like we know Mickey James, she's an absolute badass, legendary career, now TNA Hall of Famer, and she opened up about some stuff in this interview that she's never talked about before, and she even said that she's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, and it, made her pretty emotional to talk about that. That was definitely one of them. Is like hearing her talk about these things. There was also like there was a moment earlier this year in January this year. I sat down with Kurt Angle in Pittsburgh, and I asked him about that nickname that he had been called for so many years, that which I always found to be incredibly disrespectful. And he opened up about it and said, like, that really hurt my feelings that people would just focus on that one part of my life with everything else I had going on. And look at us now. We're calling him peak angle and a prime angle. And I love that so much, that like that conversation and like truly getting to like the feeling behind it could lead to, where we're at now with that.
When you look at wrestling and how much wrestling has changed, you said about 2019 AEW coming into the fold. And, for so long it was just completely dominated by the WWE. Now you see the WWE go to this global platform that we never thought we'd ever see. And now we're saying goodbye to one of the all-time greats in John Cena. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on today, was to talk about Cena, because I think Cena, and we tend to do this as fans, take certain people for granted. John Cena is somebody that has always been there, always been on top. Most of the time, as fans, we complained about John Cena being there and John Cena being on top. But we rarely see what John Cena is doing right now in like a quote unquote farewell tour, where he's getting to say goodbye in each and every city. We just don't see that. And he's getting the opportunity to do that now. For somebody that has dove into this world of pro wrestling, how does that make you feel, that like to have this farewell tour for somebody like John Cena?
It's unprecedented because every wrestler wrestles their last match. Not every wrestler knows when that last match is going to be. And for John Cena last July in Toronto at Money in the Bank to say, I'm retiring next year and I'm going to give it my all from January to December. That's never been done before, not in pro wrestling, at least. We've seen it in basketball when Kobe kind of had his last season, and every city he went to, everyone had the chance to say goodbye. Derek Jeter did the same thing in baseball. But for this to happen in wrestling, it's a difficult thing, right? Because if he's
Yeah.
going to say, I'm going to commit to 36 dates and he gets injured on one of them, oh my goodness. Well, now what happens, right? But John Cena's gone out there and he's given us some of the best work of his career, especially over these last few months. That match with AJ Styles was just
Incredible.
mind blowing,
Yep.
right? And a love letter to pro wrestling. It's everything we love about wrestling given to us here in a match. And you really keyed in on something that I think is important. You don't know what you got till it's gone. And for so many years, John Cena would make a return and get booed out of the building, or fans would sing John Cena sucks, and like he couldn't do anything to get over. And then he went away for a little bit, and then all of these appearances now have just been like, we don't have many left. And
Yeah.
everyone's just appreciating it. And you know that I preach gratitude all the time. I feel like every fan around the world, whether you loved John Cena when he debuted, or you hated him, or you loved the Doctor Thugonomist, or you hated him, or you loved Cena when he was being shoved down our throat, or you hated him, you love him and you appreciate him and you're grateful for him now. And the thing that I really love now is we've got 4 dates left as we sit here. We're playing this fun game of, is it going to be 4 matches? Is it, who are the 4 opponents going to be? And I love that we can do that. I love that there's like wrestling is at its best when it's unpredictable. And that's a really cool thing here. Like, obviously, we know after December 13th, that's it. He's not wrestling again, but we don't know who that match is against. And I think it's amazing that for the next 2 months, we can play that game of who's it going to be?
And that's what we've been talking about so much here on Busted Open. And like this morning, with everything that's going on and the whole landscape and how it changes, like, at first I was like, oh, it should be somebody that's younger on the roster, an opportunity for him to put somebody over that could carry us into the future. Then it's TKO. They're probably going to want a marquee name and somebody that's going to, be in lights as John Cena says goodbye. And then I'm talking about it this morning, and it's like, does it even really matter? Like, when you have 60,000 fans waiting in queue to buy a ticket for his final match, Chris, does it matter who his final opponent's going to be, or is it just really about the moment of saying goodbye to a legend?
I feel like that whole night is going to be really emotional because it's all building up to like the inevitable, right? Like, what's going to happen here. I think the opponent matters, but John Cena has shown us over the last few months, hell, almost this last whole year, that like he can go out there and have a great match with anybody. And that's why he's Big Match John. So I think it matters in the storytelling of like, how are we going to get there? But we all know the ending, right? And I think that we can all kind of guess. John loves the business so much. I'm sure he's going to go out looking at the lights. He's going to go out putting someone else over. I don't know if it really matters who that final opponent is in the aftermath, like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. That won't matter as much as just like John Cena's career culminates in this moment. But I'm really curious because, like you said, there's a lot of different ways they could go with this. It could be a younger talent, it could be a veteran, could be a return, right? And there's a lot of whispers about could be somebody whose contract may be up.
Maybe.
I don't know. And that's what I love about this right now.
I love it too. And I think that's the fun of being a pro wrestling fan, is just enjoying the moment, speculating, fantasy booking. Like, Chris, the way that this whole farewell of Cena has gone, there's been a lot of unpredictability. Like, we never would have thought we've gotten a heel turn. Heck, I didn't think that AJ Styles was going to be one of his final opponents. And you said it was this love letter to the last 20 years of pro wrestling. So I have a feeling the last match is going to be something that's just as unpredictable as every other moment that's happened on this farewell tour. And you mentioned about who knows, and the rumors and the speculation. You and I are going to be vacationing together in November of 2026 on the Jericho cruise. Talk about that. Talk about doing the Chris Van Vliet show on the deck in front of fans on the high seas on its way to the Bahamas.
I can't believe I get to be part of this. I can't believe that you and I are going to share a, margarita or a Mai Tai or whatever your drink happens to be on the high seas with Chris Jericho. Like, Jericho is an absolute legend, and everything that he's done in the ring is amazing. But when you look at the things he's done outside of wrestling, the thing that impresses me so much about Jericho is it's like he had a bucket list of like, I want to be a rock star. Okay. I want to write a book. All right. I want to write many books. Okay. I want to have a great podcast. All right. I want to have a cruise with all the wrestling fans from around the world. All right. He's just ticking these things off. So I've heard so many great things about Jericho's cruise. I've never been on it.
I've been on it twice, Chris. It's a blast. You are going to have the greatest time. I'm telling you right now, you're going to have a blast.
I can't wait. So I'm pumped that I'm bringing Insight with Chris Van Vliet there. I don't know who the guest is, but we've got 13 months to figure that out. So, we'll see. But I do have a live show November 29th in San Diego, and I've got a live show WrestleMania week in Las Vegas. So like the live shows have been so fun because so much of podcasting, broadcasting is like you kind of do it in a vacuum, right? Like it's me right now sitting in a room and there's just a camera and there's nobody else. And like there may be one or two people in the studio with you, but you kind of do it in a vacuum. And it's nice to know that on the other side of this mic and on the other side of that camera are other wrestling fans, other people just as passionate about this. And it's cool to be in a room or on a ship and be there with them.
No, it's going to be a lot of fun. Go to chrisjerichocruise.com. And then last thing, Chris, and thanks for the time. I know you're super busy, and Insight's been just a wonderful listen and a wonderful watch. But for you, you talked about Jericho in this bucket list and checking things off. You've checked off a lot off that bucket list. Is there something else out there for you that you were interested in accomplishing?
I think for me, success has always been defined like this. Am I excited for what I'm going to do when I wake up that day? And am I proud of what I've done at the end of the day? And that's it. And then wake up tomorrow and attempt to do it again. So that's it for me. I'm like, I am laser focused in on the YouTube channel and the podcast and like just trying to have great conversations with great people. I think like on the immediate goal list, there's some people I still haven't talked to. Randy Orton is at the top of that list. Yeah. RKO, not the three most powerful letters in wrestling. It's CVV. No, I'm just kidding. But I've been trying to get Randy on the show for a long time. So maybe putting that out into the world will make this happen. But I think the goal and the focus is just how lucky are we, Dave? How lucky are we that we get to do this? And I just think about like, do I get to do it again tomorrow? Okay, cool.
I said it in the open of this morning's show. You know, Chris, I said how blessed I am that my career is turning on the microphone and talking pro wrestling and talking to pro wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we are blessed. We're living the dream. And I always thank the Busted Open Nation for making these dreams possible. And the one thing I'll say, Chris, about what you've been able to accomplish, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on today, because you know, so much craziness and negativity is happening. And when I think of you, I think of gratitude and I think of positivity. You're number one. You have the number one podcast out there when it comes to pro wrestling, and you've done it on your own terms and by your own rules. And meaning that you didn't have to follow a formula. You've done it the way that you're most comfortable with, and it's a huge success. And you've done it with gratitude and positivity. And I have to thank you for that. And it's a huge accomplishment by you. And congratulations, because you're a huge success doing it your way, and your way in a positive way.
That means so much coming from you and the incredible career that you've had. So, Dave, thank you. And like I can't believe all of the people that I've talked to, all the people you've talked to, all the like the amazing things that we get to do. It blows my mind, and I'm grateful for it every day. So thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you for having me on.
Hell
Always
yeah,
good
man.
to see you.
Thanks for doing it last minute. I literally texted you
Anytime
and said, man, can you come on? You're like, yeah, let's go.
Anytime. And I'm sorry if you hear screaming kids in the background. We're getting ready to send my daughter off to preschool this morning, but
it's tough.
thank you.
The fun begins, Chris.
We are in it right now, 2.5 and 10 months old. So yeah.
Chris, thanks so much, man. Love you and appreciate your time, dude.
Love you, Dave. Thank you so much.